I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess, and today I am doing a video of fairy tale retelling recommendations. So, I adore fairy tale retellings. I think I've said that several times on here, and I thought it would be fun to do a little recommendation video of them. So let's just jump in. So, and by the way, there is a lot of YA on here because most fairy tale retellings seem to be YA, but there are a few adult ones as well. So, all right, first up we've got The House, actually it's not the, it's just House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. This is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, which is my favorite fairy tale ever. And there's actually 2 retellings of it on here, and that's because I love it so much. So this is a gothic fantasy, and it is so creepy and just atmospheric and great. It follows, I forget her name, Annalie, who was once one of 12 daughters, but they are slowly dying off in age order. So she is now the eldest, even though there were once several before her. And her and her sisters start getting these like kind of ghostly visions, and it's all very creepy. It's so creepy. I love it. Oh my god. And also this cover. Can we talk about this cover? It's so pretty. But yeah, highly recommend it if you're into gothic and looking for a fairy tale retelling that incorporates that. It's a great retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses. It does a really great job with the story. And I especially like that we don't have to deal with all 12 of the princesses, because when retellings try to do that, they tend to come off as very one-dimensional. But by killing off several right before it starts, that problem's not a problem anymore. Right, next up is another YA book. This is Blanca and Roja by Anna Marie Miclemore. This is a retelling of Snow White and Rose Red, which is probably a lesser known fairy tale retelling and definitely lesser retold. So this follows 2 sisters named Blanca and Roja. Shocking. And they are in a family, the Deerskin family, who one day they know that one of the daughters will get turned into a swan. Like, no matter what, there's always 2 daughters, one is always turned into a swan. And so this is just the story of that happening and them trying to stop it. And we also get some elements of the ugly duckling in here with one of their love interests. It's very magical realism. It's just great. It's beautifully written. I really enjoyed the characters. Yeah, Anna Marie Miclemore is a fantastic writer. I can't wait to read the rest of her stuff. I have Dark and Deepest Red waiting for me, which is a retelling of The Red Shoes. But yeah, I highly recommend this. It is very weird, which tends to be a thing with magical realism. It tends to be very confusing. So I did start off kind of confused, but it worked out. It ended up being a gorgeous story that I would highly recommend to anybody. All right, next up we have Bitter Greens by Kate Forsyth. Do I ever know how to pronounce things? No. This is a retelling of Rapunzel, and it uses, oh, it's so good. There's like several different storylines. So we've got the writer Charlotte Rose de la Force, who wrote the French version of Rapunzel that we are familiar with. So it's dealing with her being banished from Versailles and this nun telling her this story of a young girl named Margarita who is sold by her parents to this courtesan, Selina Leonelli, and how she gets locked in a tower. And I mean, the typical story of Rapunzel. I don't even have an excuse for that. I'm just tired and out of it. But so it's the story of Margarita, Selena, and Charlotte Rose all together, and it's woven so beautifully. And this is one that's definitely not YA. This is meant for adults. There's some adult themes in here. Sexual assault is definitely prominent, so do be warned of that. But it is such a beautiful story. I need to reread it sometime soon. All right, next up is another one meant for adults. This is The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. So this is another work of magical realism. It's set in Alaska in 1920. It focuses on a couple who go out there to build a farm, and they're childless. And they one day build a child out of snow, and she comes to life. So this is a retelling of The Snow Child, obviously. This book is stunning. The writing is absolutely gorgeous. The story is heart-wrenching and just so I mean, the back of the book says bewitching, a magical yet brutally realistic tale, captivating, spellbinding, full of wonder, longing, hope, pain, and beauty. And I agree with all of that. This is one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. It's truly just a piece of art. And the way that she captures the landscapes, it's so good. It's so good. And I just picked it up on a whim because of the cover too. Like, I saw it in a bookstore and was like, neat cover, and picked it up. And this is truly one of the best books I've ever read. It's so gorgeous. All right. And now we have a book by Juliette Marillier, who I talked about in my fantasy recommendation video. So this is another retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses. This is Wildwood Dancing. This focuses on 5 sisters who are able to go into this magical world of the fairy, I think it is. There's no summary on the back, which is super unhelpful for me. It is set in Romania, so it is considered historical fantasy, but it reads just like regular fantasy. Actually, all of Juliette Marillier's stuff is historical fantasy, but it really reads like high fantasy. It's just gorgeous. This is so good. I absolutely adore what she's done. So not only is it a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, it also weaves in the Frog Prince. So the main character, whose name I'm not remembering, Jenna? Is it Jenna? It might be Jenna. Has this little frog companion, and oh, it's great. It's so good. Her eldest sister ends up falling in love with a vampire, and there's so much good stuff in this book. Pick it up. Please pick up this book. It's so good. I think it is considered YA, but I'm not actually sure about that. It definitely has a younger feel than some of Marillier's other books. So next up is another YA novel. This is East by Edith Pateau. This is a retelling of East of the Sun, West of the Moon. It is one of my favorite fairy tale retellings. It's one of the very first I read, actually, I think. So I probably started with Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, moved to Ella Enchanted, and then East. So this is about a girl named Rose who ends up going off with this bear and lives with him in an empty castle, and then this mysterious stranger comes to her at night and sleeps in her bed. So it's the story of East of the Sun and West of the Moon, but we get all these different characters. So we've got Rose, but we also have points of view from her father and her brother, the troll queen. Do we get the bear? I don't remember if we get the bear or not. Yes, we do, White Bear, but his is told more in poetry. It's really interesting, and I just adore it. It's been one of my favorites for years. All right, next up we have another adult book. This is All the Ever Afters by Danielle Teller. This is a retelling of Cinderella, focused on Cinderella's stepmother. So her name is Agnes, and she starts out as a peasant, goes to work as a laundry apprentice in a Viceford manor when she's a child, and she ends up working her way up to be married to the Lord, who has this daughter, Ella, and then the fairy tale continues from there. I adore what Teller did with this book. So we've got Cinderella. Ella is coded as autistic, which is great. And I never see anyone talking about that. When I do happen upon them reading somebody talking about this book, nobody ever mentions that. They're always talking about what a brat she is, but she is definitely coded as having autism. She has special interest in fashion. She doesn't pick up on social cues, and she sometimes has these meltdowns. So I love that there is representation of mixed race people. Agnes originally marries a black man and has 2 daughters with him, and those are the ugly stepsisters who really aren't ugly. It's just so good. It's so good. What else can I say about it? It is historical. It's historical fiction. It's not fantasy. So that is actually something different than all of the other books on this list. This is not fantasy. It's historical fiction set in 14th century England, maybe 13th century, or maybe 15th century. I don't know if there's actually ever a year that's said, but you could kind of, somebody else reviewed it and like was basically able to, with their knowledge, infer when it was set, and it was around then. So this is so good. Definitely pick this up if you like Gregory Maguire's work. So like Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister or Wicked. This has some similarities with Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, but it's completely its own book, and it's beautiful. And last of all, we have one by Robin McKinley, who is one of the queens of fairy tale retellings, in my opinion. This is Deerskin, which is a retelling of Donkey Skin or Many Furs. So this princess reaches womanhood, and she looks a lot like her dead mother, and her father decides he wants to marry her. So she runs away and ends up putting on this deerskin dress. In the fairy tales, it's like literally a donkey skin or a cloak made of all the furs of these different animals. And then she goes to this other country and starts working there. This is stunning. This is so stunning. This is more adult than most of McKinley's books are. There's another trigger warning for rape in here. I feel like we've had that a lot. Why is there so much of that in these? But it's completely gorgeous. The writing is stunning. The world building is stunning. It's one of my favorites by McKinley, definitely. It's probably tied with Rose Daughter, which is her retelling of Beauty and the Beast, or one of them, rather. So this is truly gorgeous. Truly, truly gorgeous. So those are some of my fairy tale retelling recommendations. Let me know down in the comments below if you have read any of them and what you thought. Would you like to read any of them? Have you read any fairy tale retellings that you would recommend to me or to anyone else watching? Please let me know. It's been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.